In this chapter, I'm going to show you how to export this clothing we just created in Marvelous Designer to Maya to get clean topology to then export into ZBrush. As you can see, here we just have triangles. So there are some new tools that have been added in the latest versions of Marvelous Designer, which can give you some pretty good start or some pretty fast retopology. Here under mesh style, you can do quads optimized. Take a few seconds. As you can see, it's a clean geometry, but you don't really have much control over it unless you start to change particle distance, and you can create more or less polygons. Then you have quad grid, which is a probably cleaner option. As you can see, this is pretty clean. Let's go back to triangles, and I can show you some new tools as well. So there's edit topology, create topology, and patch topology. Patch is quite an interesting one. Here you can decide how many subdivisions you want. Usually I go by 4. And then you can just draw your polygons. Very similar to Maya. Then you can create another patch and then create. This is a pretty good method. Now I'm going to show you how to export this mesh into Maya. As I said before, you can decide to do the retopology here in Marvelous or doing in Maya. I personally prefer to do it in Maya because there are much better tools and you have much better control. So that's how you do it. So here we have, as you can see, the triangulated mesh. So I'm going to do one piece at a time. First the pants, then the shirt, and then these other little pieces. So these are the pants, selected, and go in File, Export, Selected OBJ, Pants 3 for triangles. Here single object, don't weld, thin. We don't use UVs. You can decide to use UVs, but we don't really need it. Centimeters, Y up, and export. Now we need to export the same object, but in the flat state. And you will see in a moment why. So select the pants again, File, Export, OBJ selected, 2D pants, triangles, and save. Same process, single object, unwelded, thin, we don't need UVs, centimeters, Y up, and you're good. Here we are back into Maya and we can import the OBJs. So import pants triangles. We can see that it's coming in with a sort of an extension, and we can fix this quite easily going under Windows, General Editors, and Namespace Editors. We can select this and delete, merge with root, and rename it pants 3 for triangles, and now it's correct. Let's import the next one. Flat pants triangle. If we take this off, the problem is fixed. This option in when we import OBJs here usually is on to prevent the import of object with the same name, but in this case we don't need it. So now we have both a geometry, the simulated one and the flat one. What we need to do is create a blend shape. So we pick this first and shift pick the flat one for second, and we go under the form blend shape. You can see here that a blend shape is created, and in the outliner you can go and type 1, and you can see that this is wrapping into the 3D object. This is going to be useful because we are going to do the retopology here in the flat state and then wrap the form, the new created geometry, onto this, and this will get wrapped into the 3D geometry. Sounds very convoluted at the moment, but you will understand when I start to do it. Alternatively, we could use this as a base and reconstruct topology here. We can make this live, and using the quad draw we could start to create polygons here. But sometimes doing this is much more laborious and much more complicated, so that's why I prefer to do it in the flat state first and then wrap this into this shape. Also, this gives us much more control, and we can do it multiple times until we are happy with the result. Now I'm going to start to retopologize the mesh. I'm going to select the flat mesh, right click and make live, and then under the modeling toolkit use quad draw. So with quad draw you just need to create vertices, and when you have 4 vertices you can hold shift and create polygons. The best advice I can give you is try to keep this very even and all in quads, and little by little start to build the mesh. Start very low res and keep all in quads. Try to avoid as much as possible triangles. Holding shift you can also smooth the quads. See, shift I'm creating more polygons, and shift again to smooth. This way you can create a mesh really fast, and you have complete control over the direction of your flow, as you can see. You can also use the soft selection tool, holding B and then moving left and right. You can increase and decrease the size of the soft selection, so you can move little by little, and doing shift again you can smooth the polygons. As you can see, if you start really low res, it's going to be quite easy to create even geometry and smooth it. And now you can increase the resolution holding control. You can just create more polygons. Okay, you can smooth it a bit more. As I said before, you should really keep these even polygons, but in this case it's a really a little different because these trousers are going to be squashed quite a lot vertically. So I'm starting creating a really low res mesh with a little longer polygon that I would usually do, because when this is wrapped into the 3D geometry, that would be squashed quite a lot in vertical. So there would be quads again. And I'm going to add also another 2 levels of subdivisions. So I think at the end will be fine. So I can get out of the quadro, and as you can see, the pivot is not centered. And I can go here and center the pivot and mirror duplicate. Cut geometry need to be off. Axis position need to be on object. So I can change the pivot point and match the position. Merge should be off. The position is okay. Now I can delete history with Shift Alt Delete. And then with Ctrl Shift Q, I can go back in Quadro and realign to the border. As I said, try to keep this really straight and even. I think this is pretty good for now. I'm going to test it. I'm going to get out of Quadro and in object mode, Shift Alt D to delete history. And now I'm going to wrap this geometry onto this one. Let's get out also of live mesh. Let's call these quad pants. So set this one and shift select the other one and the form wrap. Let's check the option box because there is an option that is really important. Exclusive bind should be off. This will very easily crash your machine. Let's apply. And now we can put back the blend shape at 1 and should be wrapped. In fact, it's wrapped to the geometry. As you can see, this is the newly created and clean quad mesh. It's still very basic, but you can see that it's working. Later I'm going to add the back part and probably 2 levels of subdivisions. So now we can go back to the previous state. Make live again, and we can continue. Something to note also is I prefer to delete the wrap by freezing the object again, continue retopologizing, and then repeating the process again. So I'm going to finish to retopologize all the geometry and see you in a bit. Here I continue to retopologize the pants, mirroring, and then freezing, and then going back to the Quadro tools, moving with the soft selection and smoothing. It's mostly a combination of moving and smoothing and making sure that it's as clean as possible. I'm going to add the top pieces, following the same process. Something really good in Quadro is the fact that you can use this tool in conjunction with the traditional modeling tools of Maya. So you can use just a regular cut tool and keep modeling in Quadro. Here I'm mirroring again and freezing and going back to Quadro. It's basically repeating the same process until the pants are finished. Adding another piece, and I'm pretty much done with this process. So the retopology is done. Now there are a few more things to do. First, we can add a planar projection. And here's it. Make sure here under planar projection that this is on, because this keep the aspect ratio to a square. So let's check the UVs. Now we have clean UVs. We can actually optimize a little bit more these UVs. Here. Okay, this is fine for now. And then we need to subdivide. Here under mesh, smooth, let's check the options. Usually if you reset settings, this is set to open subds. And if you apply these, see what happens. Everything is very, very smooth, and we don't want this. So let's change the option to Camo Clark. Let's put 2 subdivisions and crease all. This is the result, and it's much more what we want. Let's double check it compared to the original mesh. Let's go back into the Quadro, and you can see that some of these edges has changed shape. So in order to fix this, we can go again in the soft selection and move this into place to resemble better the shape underneath. So this is much better. Let's do this other side. This will wrap much nicely, much better. Here the same, see, it's moved quite a bit. We'll gently and smooth it. Smooth again. It's a tricky area here, but little by little we can get there. That's a really tricky area here. To be really patient with this and smooth it. Okay. So this should be okay. Let's get out of this one and freeze it again. Save it just in case. Okay, let's do the wrapping again. So we click on this quad mesh, shift click on the triangulated mesh and deform, wrap. Okay. And now put the blend shaper 1. And the result should be good. Let's hide this and have a look. Let's hide all the triangulated meshes. So this is quite good now. Let's double check the UVs. These are okay. One more step is the fact that we need to merge all these parts. And very important, when you are retopologizing this, keep in mind that you need to have the same amount of edges along these lines, because otherwise they will never match when you're starting to merge all these pieces again together. Okay, this is looking good. Let's duplicate it. So we have another version. And as a last step, let's do the merging of the border edges. So we need to select one border edge and then double click, then shift click on this other one, double shift click again, we have selected, and then bridge polygons. Now, once we have this, we need to go into the UVs and cut these edges. Once we cut these edges, we need to select all the horizontal edges and collapse them. So double click, they're all selected, shift right click and collapse edges. In this way we are merging, but we are keeping the UV really clean. I'm going to continue this process for the whole pants and see you in a bit. So now I finished to merge all the border edges and you can see the result is very clean. This was before and this is now. So all the edges are merged. The topology is very clean. The UVs are clean. Basically, this topology is ready now. One last thing that I could do is add some more tight edges here, like edge seams, which will help me also to sculpt sharper seams in ZBrush later. And I can just do it by adding loops. Shift X. Basically, I'm just adding tighter edge loops here. And I can move this edge a little inside. We can add even a tighter one. So when we subdivide, it's going to be really sharp, and that is going to help me also in ZBrush guide me where I want to put more details and giving me some more edge loop there. I'm going to speed up now and repeat all the same process for the shirt. Here I'm going to start to retopologize the shirt. It's obviously a much bigger and complex piece. You should always start with pretty big polygons and make them very even quads. And also another thing very important to note is make sure the number of edges that you have for all the pieces that will be connected later on are the same number. For example, if you have on the left side of the shirt 10 edges, make sure then on the other side you have the same number of 10 edges. Otherwise, it will be a really big problem when you are going to merge the pieces later on. In order to do that, I just simply mirror the piece once it's finished. Let's see, I'm going to hit this piece and then I'm going to mirror it. I just mirrored the geometry here, and I'm starting to work on the back of the shirt. As you can see, I'm doing the round part that attached to the sleeves, and I'm counting multiple times just to make sure that I have enough edges, but not too many, and they need to be all the same number of edges. As you can see, is 6 edges, I believe, and I'm making sure I have 6 edges on the other side, and also on the attachment of the sleeves I need to have 12 edges. So when I'm going to wrap it, everything is going to match and have exactly the same number, so that I can merge the vertices. Here more of the same process. Continue to do quads as even as possible, and smoothing, testing again. Here I'm flipping the back part, duplicating, readjusting the edges, and then remerging all the pieces together. And just continue to smooth and make sure they are as even as possible. I'm adding the little trims at the bottom. I'm very close to final. In a bit I'm going to do the wrap. I'm getting started on the sleeves now. I'm starting from the outer edge. I counted before the edges on the other side, so I need to have 12 edges, and I'm doing 12 polygons. Then in this way everything is going to connect properly. Now I'm doing the mid polygons and making sure they are as even as I possibly can. Adding more, and continue to do the same process. It's a very long and laborious process, but it's going to repay at the end, because everything will work correctly. Also note that at this stage the polygons are sort of a little stretched and long, but then they will be okay when subdivided again and wrapped in the 3D state. I'm doing the little pieces at the bottom of the sleeves and then mirroring, moving into the correct position, smoothing, and using the soft selection tool. Now all the pieces have been reattached together, and I'm going to do a test with an extra subdivision. Here is subdivided 2 times, and I'm going to check all the edges, see they're not really matching perfectly, so I'm moving really gently the borders with the soft selection tool. I'm making sure that everything is aligning before I go to the next step and wrap the geometry. A bit more work on the edges, smoothing. I'm going to do a 2D projection, so I have some clean UVs before wrapping. Here I'm packing and increasing the scale, making sure I use all the space, and then now I'm wrapping again. Doing the wrap deform will take some time, few seconds, and work pretty well. As you can see, it's all wrapped nicely, very even topology. Now I only need to merge all the edges and we are ready to go. Here I skipped a little bit ahead and I merged all the edges of the shirt. As you can see, it's a really clean topology. There are no gaps. This is very important before to get into ZBrush. I did also the belt, these leg pieces, and the arm pieces. So basically everything is ready now to go into ZBrush. As you can see, the topology is very clean and even. This is very important. And also I did some UVs. If I select all the objects, it's not really the final UV 100%, but we are already at a pretty good stage. As you can see, the frog body is starting from the head, the body, the arms, legs and feet, and then all the clothing on the top row. In this way, I keep everything really clean, nothing is overlapping, and we're pretty much ready to get into ZBrush now.